I already brought you a Void-Gyrfalcon Slayer's Fang build, but I love this exotic so much that I want to try it out on Prismatic too and see what there is. Void has some really great things like Devour, but Prismatic has a lot of damage benefits. You can stack Radiant, you can get Spirit of the Foetracer, which we're adding on to Spirit of the Gyrfalcon to get even more damage. You also get the Prismatic Transcendence, which is really strong, and it just is very effective. You can see here we are just flying through these enemies. We just using the shotgun, everything's falling apart. We've got the volatile rounds to take out crowds. We've got grapple in there. We've also got woven mail and all this too to keep us more survivable. We're just chunking these enemies left and right. The one thing with Slayer's Fang is you do have to manage the ammo, and that is sometimes an issue, but Special Finisher covers that pretty well. Now cleared pretty much every ad, and we're going to take out this boss with just our shotgun. No super whatsoever. This is Legend Campaign, 15 power under. And it's gone. Just like that. That sounds good to you? Let's get into the build. I'm Engineer. First, we want to talk about the weapon. If you've been watching my Slayer's Fang build videos, then you might be a little bit tired of this, but pretty much discover something new every time. Just a few things here if you haven't watched since the first couple videos. Void Breaches trigger your Nightsworn Sight. Allies can trigger your Nightsworn Sight if they're also using it. This does 10% bonus damage to fallen and scorned enemies, so if you're fighting those factions, it is very strong. I was just playing with some friends and did a 50 run of Onslaught Salvation, and it was destroying everything in that because it was nothing but fallen and scorned. While you have Nightsworn Sight, you get plus 15% precision damage on top of all the other buffs we're going to be stacking. But as I mentioned, the ammo economy is the major weakness. You only hold 21 shots, which is 3 magazines at base, and you're going to churn through those pretty quick, so you're going to need to focus on that. I've put what I have crafted on it right now. For this build, I recommend the Repulsor Brace refit for the Catalyst, because that'll give you Void Overshield, and on Prismatic, we have options and we can get some other damage resistance to stack with that. So that's really effective, and you'll be shooting Void debuffed enemies a lot between Weaken and Volatile. Now, as for your other weapons, as you can see in the gameplay, you really don't need to use them a lot as long as you can manage that ammo, but a Void Heavy makes sense. We'll be activating a Spirit of the Foetracer that gives us 4 times Void Weapon Surge, so Void Weapon makes a lot of sense there. Time to talk about the exotics. So what I recommend most here is the exotic class item Relativism with Spirit of the Gyrfalcon and Foetracer. Now, that is a very specific combo that is hard to farm, so you actually can use either one of these perks. You can use the base exotics because this works with all these. Both sides of this are pretty solid. Spirit of the Gyrfalcon will give you much more ad clear. Spirit of the Foetracer will give you much more single target damage. As you know, Spirit of the Gyrfalcon will, when you leave Void Invisibility, gives you volatile rounds for 9 seconds. Really great for ad clear, but you can get volatile rounds on Prismatic through a Fragment by getting a grenade kill, so it's not necessarily required. Spirit of the Foetracer is a little bit more situational, but when you do ability damage to an elite mini-boss champion boss, you get ×4 weapon surge matching the element of that ability. So if we use a void attack like Snare Bomb, we get void weapon surges, and you get that for 11 seconds. And that's a pretty hefty buff because we can also stack that with Radiant and Weaken and a bunch of other stuff. But it's only the strong enemies. It won't help you clear out huge crowds of stuff, so you do want to make sure you get volatile rounds somehow. If you don't have Gyrfalcon's Halberd, you need to own Witch Queen, and then you can get it from Rahul's Novel Decryption or Vex Strike Force. Foetracer is a base game exotic. You can get it from any source in the game. Zur, Random Drops, Vex Strike Force, or Rahul's Novel Decryption. Any of those work. Now, Relativism, if you don't have it, you need to own the Final Shape, beat the campaign, do the Dual Destiny exotic mission, although you actually can get it without that, just from Pale Heart chests, but it's a little bit harder. And then you can get it from the Pale Heart or Zur or Dual Destiny once you have it unlocked. But you do want to do Dual Destiny at least once because that's how you attune perks, which will give you a higher drop chance of a perk you select. And there are 8 perks in each column, so that's 64 possible combinations. Moving over to the aspects and abilities, we obviously want Stylish Executioner for the Gyrfalcon loop. This will also give us some good survivability. We're inflicting a lot of debuffs, so we'll go invisible pretty often. So that's just pretty solid for moving around, positioning, getting those shots lined up, and catching your breath in between your shots. For the second aspect, I like Winter Shroud. You really just want something that can trigger Stylish Executioner, So you want a class ability that can inflict some kind of verb. Slow is great. It also gives you 50% damage resistance for 4 seconds after you do a dodge, which is a nice little buff on top of slowing enemies. And whenever you slow an enemy, you get extra class ability regen for 3 seconds, which is pretty solid, just to keep that loop going. Another thing that might work here is Ascension. Ascension doesn't activate a lot of mods and things right now, but it will next episode. We just learned today, so there's possibly some benefit there. But that'll inflict Jolt and give you Amplified, which, once again, next episode, Amplified will give you some damage resistance, so you have some options. Now, for your super, I recommend Silkstorm, and that's mostly for Facet of Purpose, which will let you get Woven Mail off of orbs, but it's pretty flexible. You can run any of these supers depending on what you need. That one's pretty solid though, and you'll get it pretty quickly. It's kind of nice to have a Darkness super too to help round out your Transcendence gauge, but once again, it's flexible. On the grenade, I like Grapple Grenade. It gets you up close quickly. It inflicts a debuff, which is Unravel, so you can get into Stylish Executioner if you get a kill. And it has a very short cooldown and an 87.5% flat gain factor. Now, for the melee, very much recommend Snare Bomb. It's pretty much required for the Foetracer loop because it's your easiest ability to inflict with that, and it's a short cooldown, and you can get it back from Gambler's Dodge, and it weakens on top of it, which is, lastly, your class ability obviously should be Gambler's Dodge. That lets you get your melee back, and that's just too useful. Talking over the fragments, so I recommend Facet of Balance. That will give you some extra ability energy as you're doing all those kills. Facet of Dawn is very recommended for the extra 25% weapon damage from Radiant whenever you hit an enemy with your melee. Really solid. The next two are defensive. We want Facet of Protection. That gives 15% damage resistance when surrounded by enemies, which you will be quite often with a shotgun. And then Facet of Purpose, so you can pick up an extra damage resistance. Keep in mind, we will get Void Overshield pretty frequently from using Slayer's Fang, so you don't really want to go for that one. Amplified gives you nothing but just some mobility boost, but the rest of these are all very solid, so this is probably what's going to drive your super, at least somewhat. Lastly, I recommend taking Facet of Awakening, and that just lets you make Void Breaches. You'll also generally probably come up with some Strand Tangles as well, but the Void Breaches are really effective for triggering your Night's Sight in between kills, so that's just a nice extra benefit. Some honorable mention fragments. Facet of Sacrifice will help balance out your Transcendence energy, give you some more Darkness Transcendence energy, because we're very focused on the light damage, but if you can use a Darkness super, activating that once will fill that up, and you should get that back in between most Transcendence usages. Lastly, if you're running just Foetracer or Spirit of the Foetracer, run Facet of Bravery. It gives you volatile rounds whenever you get a grenade kill, which is really solid. It's for 11 seconds. It's nothing to sneeze at, and you can get that grenade back pretty quick. Moving over to mods and armor stats. If you've been following my recent builds, you will see a lot of familiar mods here. We are going to focus on Special Ammo Finisher to manage the ammo economy of Slayer's Fang, but we also do want some Void Weapon Surge in here so that we have a little bit of extra damage boost even when we don't have Foetracer active. So to do this, we're going to take Charged Up on the chest, which gives us the ability to have 4 armor charges. We're going to take Stacks on Stacks, so that each orb gives us 2 armor charges. We're going to take Time Dilation on the class item so that our armor charges decay slower, and all that is to make it so that we pretty consistently have 3 to 4 armor charges. Special Ammo Finisher requires 3 armor charges, so we want to stay above that, but we still want to have some after we've used it, and that's why we're trying to get to full. On top of that, we want to build for making orbs, build for getting our class ability back, so we are using Void Siphon, we are using Heavy Handed, just making sure that we have stuff to get some orbs, get some super back. One thing to note here, grapple benefits from melee and grenade based mods, but you can't use both at the same time, but the melee ones generally work pretty well, so that's usually what I lean to. Other things to note, we're using Reaper on the class item just to get another source of orbs because we'll dodge pretty frequently, and we're using Recuperation on the legs. This build does not have a lot of healing built into it, but it does make a good amount of orbs, and those orbs can heal you thanks to Recuperation. One thing to note, and this has become a pet peeve of mine as I watch other people's build videos with Slayer's Fang, is lots of people use Special Ammo Finder in their builds, and it makes no sense. A Special Ammo Finder is going to take about 50 kills while using the shotgun to get a brick, and that brick is going to be about a third of a normal brick, which is like 2 or 3 shots. It's pretty much useless. Special Ammo Finders only really make sense if you're primarily using a primary weapon to do most of your killing, but in here we're really trying to use the shotgun almost 100% of the time, so Special Ammo Finders are not good. Don't recommend them for this. Definitely check it out on Destiny Data Compendium so you understand how it works. You can actually go to my YouTube page. I posted about this because it's driving me crazy and I wanted to inform people. but you can see the snip from there. Don't use it. On your stats, it's pretty much standard priority: max resilience, max discipline, get as much recovery as you can. We're gonna put mobility just a little bit above strength because we can use gambler's dodge to get our melee back. And then you just want to make sure intellect and strength are to 30, just so you don't take any kind of regen penalties for those. Very briefly, just touching on artifact perks, we've got a little over 2 weeks with these left, but the purple ones are your void perks that I recommend. The green ones are just general perks that work because we're up close or picking up special ammo. They give you more armor charges. You've got Thick of It and Finder's Keepers. Both those give you armor charges as you do stuff. Curative Orbs will generate an orb the first time you break an enemy's shield, which is really helpful because orbs are great. These are great. They make the build just a little bit better, but they're absolutely not required. I pretty much never build 100% in an artifact where I need it to work. Now, when I do a longer gameplay demonstration clip, this is, once again, the opening of Tomb of Elders. This is just normal, but it's a lot of enemies. It's hectic. It usually can get pretty hairy if you're just playing it by yourself, because it is intended for a full team. Fortunately here, we have Void Overshield, we have Woven Mail, we have frequent invisibility to let us collect ourselves and get some healing in. And we do really solid damage. So you see we have this Bane enemy here. We put a Snare Bomb on him, 2 shotgun shots, and he is done. I don't even think I hit full crits on those. I just missed that Scion, and the Ricochet's got him, which is lucky. Once again, it's often overlooked, but if you have Winter's Shroud, when you dodge, that extra damage resistance for a few seconds can be a lifesaver. If you see the void portals in the sky, that's from an artifact perk. Really cool perk. Not required though. It's just a nice little extra damage on enemies, and it'll happen every time you pick up a void breach. One thing that is pretty hard in this build is just finding enemies that are finishable. A lot of them get demolished before you can even try, so you might need some kind of primary that whittles them down, like a pulse or an auto rifle, just to get that. And you want to be proactive about it too. You don't want to wait till you're completely out of ammo, because then it gets kind of rough. As you get into harder content though, there will be more enemies that survive long enough to be finishable, so take advantage of that. Here's a model prisoner. We put the Snare Bomb on him, and 1 shot, and he dies. Just crazy. That was a dead-on crit, but we had Weaken, Radiant, and the Foetracer benefit. Once again, another model prisoner. Usually those guys take a little bit to kill. Nope. 1 shot. And see, we've just knocked the mini boss here down to half health. These are full bosses. They take a good bit of damage, and we've got them down to like 10% health, and we've just run out of ammo. And then we can just plop our super to finish them off. And that's pretty much it for the gameplay. Just summarizing that gameplay loop, you want to grapple into combat to get your stylish executioner. I'll turn you invisible, and then you shoot. You get volatile rounds from Gyrfalcon. You don't need to rush. There is an internal cooldown on stylish executioner called 2 stylish, and it's 2 seconds. So once you turn invisible, you need to wait 2 seconds before you can reactivate it. So take your time, line up your shot, let that expire, and you can just keep looping that invisibility. If you have an elite or higher enemy, hit them with a Snare Bomb. That's going to weaken them for plus 15% damage. That'll give you Radiant for 5 seconds for another 25% weapon damage, and then that will activate Spirit of Foetracer for another 25% void weapon damage. And all that together will come out to about 80% extra damage. And if you can activate Transcendence too, that'll give you another 5%, which actually takes it up to about 89% extra damage, but really solid. Generally, use your super and Transcendence as needed. Super is good for clearing large crowds or working on bosses or medium enemies. You can also fill out your Transcendence gauge. Transcendence is really good because it gives you a 20% damage resistance, and will also give you a little bit more ability spam, so you can throw those Snare Bombs more often. And it gives you that 5% damage for weapons. So all around really solid. Take advantage of it. It's all great. And with that, that's pretty much all I've got for the build. Thanks for all the support. Thanks for watching the videos. One thing that I haven't really said in videos a whole lot, but these slides that I use for the presentation are linked in the description. I share them in every single video. Definitely refer to them. I made them to be really easy to refer to and easy to read and easy to get information from. So take advantage of that. I will also link in the description my Discord that I have, and this is just a fun place to talk about builds. We are finally starting to hear about episode heresy. I will probably put out a video just talking about some of the changes that were talked about today and just what I'm excited about and what I'm thinking about building. So that's really great. I love the lead up to a new season. It's gonna be really fun. And with that, I'll let you go. Thanks for all the support. Have a good one.